to Martechify. I'm Ekaterina Konovalova. I'm the program director of Martechify. And for those who just joined us, Martechify is a community of over 1,000 members who are interested in digital marketing, Martech, and AI. And today I have a special guest, Allison Cerra, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Alkami Technology. Allison, welcome.
Oh my gosh, your energy is contagious. Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Me too. And Allison, I met you a while ago when you were an executive at HP.
Yeah.
And you are such a well-known executive and fantastic speaker in Texas. So you have a very impressive resume with all those executive positions at tech companies. So can you tell us more about your career journey, as well as maybe share a little bit more about what Alchemy Technology does?
Sure. Well, that's very kind. I think most of your viewers like, Allison who? And I'm like, yes, exactly, Allison who. No, I am a marketer just like all your viewers, so nothing here to brag on. But I started my career in marketing when I was at the tender age of 17, started as marketing intern and worked my way up to becoming a CMO over a very long career. But along the way, I've worked for some amazing brands first in the telecom space back in the day when we were actually laying down the pipes of the internet. I am that old. So working at companies like Verizon back in the day when broadband was being deployed, and then Alcatel-Lucent, which is now Nokia, when those broadband networks were being built out. Then moved to more the cloud infrastructure with HP and was VP of marketing for them in a couple of their key regions. And I actually got minted as CMO when McAfee spun out from Intel. I was a VP of marketing at Intel. And I was at the right place at the right time, honestly, because I thought I'm never going to be a CMO. I've been doing this now for 25 years. It's never going to happen for me. And lo and behold, the company decided to spin out, and my boss was gracious enough to take me and the rest of the leadership team with him when he was appointed CEO of McAfee. I became CMO of McAfee. And so that was my first CMO gig. And now I'm on another CMO gig here at Alchemy. And Alchemy, for those of you who don't know us, we're not a household name. We're a Fintech that specializes in digital banking technology. So we equip regional and community banks and credit unions with a white label software as a service platform that allows them to offer mobile banking and digital banking to their customers and members. We are the men and women behind the scenes. We have a platform that supports about 20 million end users. So it's a pretty massive platform right now in banking. And we get to provide that on behalf of these regional and community banks and credit unions to really democratize financial freedom and financial access to services, which the US is pretty distinct in this category of having such a plethora of choice of thousands of banks and credit unions that regular consumers and businesses can take advantage of that competitive playing field. In a lot of markets, that isn't the case. It's much more consolidated. So we take the mission very seriously here.
Wonderful. So since we talk about fintech, let's talk about innovation and security concerns. How do you balance that?
Well, so you have to think I was saying this back when I was at, now Nokia. I said there are only two companies that know more about me than anybody else. That would be, at the time, because I was in telecom, that would be my service provider, who knows everything I watch, stream, view, knows everywhere I spend my share of time. And then my financial provider, my bank, who knows everywhere that I spend my money. So you kind of had this kind of juxtaposition of where I'm spending my time, which my service provider knew, and where I was spending my money, which my bank knew. And I would say back then, you put a bank's financial records on display and you would know everything about what's really important to somebody. And so there's never been a lack of data for banks and credit unions. What there's been is a lack of insight for them, because when you are dealing with so many billions of transactions that are being processed daily across all the different forms of currency, and I say currency in the way of payment methods that we're using today, many of them cashless, it's overwhelming. And so what we have worked really hard at Alchemy to do is to allow those financial institutions to understand how they can glean insights from what their account holders want and need and aspire to be and aspire for their dreams to be, and help them fulfill their dreams. Because if anybody can help me fulfill my full potential in this life, it is ostensibly my financial institution who can give me a leg up in fulfilling that. So that's kind of where we have really tried hard. And here's the good news. I'll tell you this. We do a lot of end user research here, loads of it. And about 50% of the market wants a more personalized experience from their bank or credit union. About the same amount are very comfortable with things like AI using their personal data to provide them a better financial experience. So consumers are increasingly, and that obviously indexes even higher when you go to younger generations, which, by the way, we're in the greatest generational wealth transfer in the nation's history. I should tell you all that. So that's pretty exciting. Right now, boomers are passing down their wealth, some of them giving while living, some of them as they are bequeathing those assets. And so you've now got millennials who are really starting to take the reins. They're taking the reins of business ownership. They're taking the reins of wealth in the company. And so you start to look at that very tech dependent audience. AI is not scary to them. They understand that there is a give and take of you use my information, I get something in return. But to your point, in regulatory parlance of the financial industry, there's a lot of complexity on this that you don't see when I'm just doing Netflix on the weekend, right? Now you're talking about my financial records, and you're talking about regulatory constraints that have been here for a long time to make sure that financial freedom really is preserved, and you don't have any discriminatory practices against classes or cohorts of people, either intentionally or unintentionally. So when we talk about things like leveraging AI to basically learn from the data, if that data is built upon any practices historically that were discriminatory or biased, again, intentionally or otherwise, we all know that AI model will learn those practices. So it's really about the human machine teaming. It's about the human machine oversight of making sure these models don't drift, don't become compromised over time. Again, not through bad purposes, but just because of the model drifting over time. And in the way of this, in this world, making sure that there are no black boxes in AI technology. Has to be fully transparent, no opaque kind of obscure, I don't quite know how the algorithm decided that Ekaterina could get that loan, but Allison couldn't. That is not going to stand up to the regulatory and compliance scrutiny to making sure of things like fair lending are in place. So you got to make sure that regulators can understand, interpret, and make sure that the model is also behaving and operating without any of those things happening. We spent a whole lot more time talking about fraud, right? Because now you got to worry about weaponization of the models from hackers and adversaries who do have ill intent. So you also have to make sure that you've got a cybersecurity posture and a data, protection posture that is also second to none. There are a lot of things in this industry uniquely, because we're dealing with my treasure now as an end user, that we've got to be very mindful of, and the bar is much higher for these financial institutions to meet and exceed on multiple levels.
Exactly. And you slightly touched on the trends with younger generations are more comfortable with AI and personalization. So what is your vision for the next 2 to 5 years? Where do you see the trends headed in fintech?
Yeah, so this is where I say this with and I've said it since I joined Alchemy. It's the reason I joined this company, because I so believe in the mission of this company. I grew up in a blue collar household. So I am like most of the people watching this who are like, my parents worked and we had to pay the bills. We did not grow up in an environment that afforded us the access to the best financial advisors on the planet. My parents had to make do to figure out, how am I going to save for my kids' education? How am I going to save for my daughter's weddings? How am I going to save for the vacation we want? How am I going to save for my retirement to be served properly when I retire and not have to continue to work until I'm 95? They had to figure that out on their own largely, or through access to maybe some financial services, but nobody that really intimately knew them. What I love about what these financial institutions can do when you think about when data is used responsibly, ethically, and effectively, it now allows any consumer or business person to be afforded the best financial advisor that money can't buy. Because you know everything about me. There is no question mark. And if that financial institution can help me achieve dreams that I didn't know that I even had possible in me, then the entire country gets to a better place. We take that economic freedom that we all take for granted and we supercharge it to another level of personal freedom in our finances and choices that we never thought imaginable. I'll give your audience a couple of examples of this. So we've been talking about this for years, and this isn't even that like out there because this is a real use case. If you see that I, as one of your account holders, has all of a sudden had a plethora of car expenses, repair shop expenses, towing truck expenses, why not offer me a proactive loan that I'm already pre-qualified for to go find a car that's attractive to me, that is in my financial wallet, that you can tell me what my payments would be and how I could actually do this without any predatory pricing or anything that I might be subjected to if I had to go get a spot loan somewhere else on the street. What if you could do the same thing by seeing that I have a lot of home repairs going on right now, and you're seeing that I'm looking in places like home improvement stores based on, again, my transactional data. What if you could spot loan me or offer me a home improvement, home equity line of credit loan, right? That's pre-approved, that has favorable terms for me because you know what my account history is and you know that I'm a good account holder. There are things like this that change the dynamic. What if you could tell me, and you see this in the fintech space now, so this is a more common use case, but still not prevalent. Tell me what cards I should pay off of faster. Credit card debt is at an all-time high in the past couple of years. Help me understand which cards I should be paying off and how I manage those expenses. Because for the average consumer who does not have a major in finance, this can be convoluted and complicated. And with more and more of my money being dispersed across multiple networks and providers, be that aggregated provider to me that helps me understand what my full financial health and my picture is and help me achieve my dreams that only you can help me really achieve, other than my own personal tenacity and grit on the other side, right? So this really takes this to another place that we are just barely scratching the surface on. And that's why I get up every day to do what I do, because I think that this is the next degree of taking the nation at large and the consumers and businesses that make up this great country to another level of prosperity.
Yes, and this is very innovative thinking where you indeed look at the data, spending, and proactively offer a solution to people with new car loan or home repairs.
Whatever that might be, here, pay off this debt, let me help you. And I think most people, in fact, I know most consumers would see that as a welcome change, because now you're not selling me products and services, you're helping me attain my financial goals. And we all are here because we're trying to create a better life for ourselves or the generation, that's coming behind us. So why would I see that in most cases as a negative if it's in fact helpful, effective, respectful of my privacy? So this isn't about making this available to a bunch of people who are trying to solicit to me. It's about using the relationship that I've already entrusted you with my treasure, with my finances, and helping me make better, smarter choices. It's the daily habits. I know I'm going, but I'm wearing an Apple Watch right now, right? And it's every day it tells me what I need to do to improve my health over the long haul. And it's the small habits that form a lifestyle change over a year that you see, that you measure, and you go, wow, I didn't measure it day to day that I made a big change. But you measure in a year and you go, wow, I'm actually getting my 30 minutes of exercise in at least 4 times a week or 5 times a week, or I'm getting my 10,000 steps in. That starts because you're triggering and prompting someone to take healthier steps and healthier habits in a moment where they're not overwhelming. The same can be true of our financial health and our financial journey. It's those little nudges. It's those helpful tips. It's not every day is not perfection. It's progress. And it's about getting you to a healthier state of time of financial health over the long haul.
Yes, and as you touched on these healthy habits, let's think about what skills are the most underrated for long-term success in marketing. So let's put the mentorship hats.
We're putting on our marketing hat. Okay,
for future marketers.
So I am a bit of a purist in marketing, and I've joked. I say this affectionately. I say my next book, I've had this working title in my head forever. My next book's title is going to be Marketing is Dead, Long Live Marketing. Because every few years you have somebody who comes out as a pundit and says, for clickbait or otherwise, marketing is passe. Marketing's going away. Nobody's doing marketing. Degrees in marketing are down. We're not doing marketing. And I kind of snicker to myself a little bit because I'm like, is it really, or is marketing just evolving faster than other parts of the C-suite are evolving? Because we have a duty to represent the market we served. You can't spell marketing without market. It's literally in our name. And the market is moving so fast that marketing as a function to keep pace with and stay ahead of the market must evolve naturally faster than the other functions of the C-suite. And we've seen this now in several inflection points of the field. If you look at the origin of marketing, it started out in economics. It was price theory. It was intermediate price theory, trying to figure out how to price products. Over time, that changed. We all know the Mad Men era, obviously the one-way transmission, the brand, the Ogilvy kind of era of marketing, when marketers owned their brand and consumers and businesses just partook in it if they consumed the product or service. Then we went into the social media generation of MySpace before and Friendster before Facebook, but ultimately Facebook, and the social media that now required a skill set of marketers to say, you don't own your brand, you co-own it with your consumers and with your businesses. So that created a whole nother skill set in marketing of how do you not own the brand, but still not lose who you are in the process. Then we went into the big data era of like probably 10 or 15 years ago, when then it became all about predictive marketing and using MarTech tools. And now it became, I'm a revenue marketer. I'm an ROI-based marketer. I can actually show you the half of the advertising spend you didn't know was effective back in the Mad Men days and tell you what's effective in the digital era. We are now coming into the next generation, and that is AI is changing fundamentally the way that we do our work. Doesn't mean marketing in my mind changes. We're still here to represent the market. We're still here to be the tip of the spear of the companies we work for, to say this is where the market is going and this is how we're going to go create a market or create a category around our product or service, or how we're going to differentiate that product or service within that category. Those are still the yeoman's basic things that you got to do well as a marketer. You got to have what makes you distinct, how you're basically fitting a need in the market, how you're creating heroes in the market among the buyers that are consuming your product or service, and how are you differentiating from your competition to say we are distinctly different, not always better. Different is better than better, as I say, but we are different than the way the others do things or serve you. That's always going to be in my mind what marketers do. But as we look at AI, we have to understand the workflow is changing. And so I look at something like Gen AI and I say, listen, I'm an author. So initially I was like, oh gosh, Gen AI is never going to be able to write like an author. It's just not. And I'm telling you right now, I am now a convert. I believe it can help you. But at the end of the day, as great as Gen AI is, and these large language models are only going to get better over time, and the creative models on the other side, like the Dollies of the world, are only going to get better over time. They're democratizing what otherwise would have to be a very reserved skill set within marketing, which gives us permission to expand our aperture and our bandwidth to do the things that the machines can't do, the higher level strategic thinking of how do we want to continue to differentiate, make a market, create a market. That actually gives us a lot more freedom in my mind to actually elevate the function once again to something different in the future while still remaining true to the purpose. So I'm super excited about it. I think that, your viewers are obviously here for a reason. I would say if you're not already really curious about it, be curious and start experimenting with it, because I think you'll just find that it opens up your time and opportunity to do so many other things when you actually have a machine assisting you in the way that we talked about, that human machine teaming and putting those Wonder Twin powers together. It's actually a pretty powerful combination.
Absolutely. What a great insight, Allison. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for asking such great questions. Got me going for the morning.